The old rundown cowshed was one of the first barns the Thompson built on Coldwind Farm. It was originally intended to house sick animals at a safe distance from the rest of the livestock, but no animal who entered it ever survived. A new barn was built, and the old cowshed was left to rot in the shadows. Now, before we get into this video, I just want to let you guys know that we do stream live on Twitch throughout the week. You can check us out at twitch.tv/parkless. Link should be down below in the description. You can come, hang out, ask whatever questions you want, and just enjoy some good old Dead by Daylight. Now, if you haven't figured it out by now, today on Surviving the Fog, we're going to be looking at Coldwind Farm's Fractured Cowshed, probably one of the most well-known maps. Now, for those who haven't actually played DBD or maybe just want to know a little bit more about what's going on, every map has a large pool of possible totems that can spawn. Now, when the trial starts, the game will randomly select 5 of these totems and place them throughout the map. What we aim to do here is help you out to better understand where these totems can spawn, so you won't be running around crazy when you're just trying to break some totems in case the killer has some hex perk that you don't want, or maybe you just want to get some extra blood points. Now, to make things easier, we're going to split this video up into 3 different sections. We're going to have the outer totems, which are going to be on the outer tiles, which are closest to the wall of the map. Then we're going to have the inner totems. Those are going to be more interior to the cornfield itself. And then finally, we're going to have the main buildings. This is going to be the barn and the shack. We're going to put some timestamps here so you can jump around as you need. So without further ado, let's jump into Surviving the Fog, Coldwind Farm, Fractured Cowshed. All right, now the first totem we're going to look at is going to be the obligatory standard jungle gym. This tile you'll see on many other maps. It's most noticeable by the many walls that surround it, the enclosure. It has a window on one side, and then diagonal from that is going to be a pallet. Sometimes it's going to have a generator, sometimes it's going to have a hook. It'll always have at least one locker, and in this case it's going to have a totem as well. Now this totem is actually going to be on the interior of the tile. You'll see 1 or 2 water barrels, and tucked behind the water barrel next to the wall is going to be your totem. The next jungle gym we're going to look at is going to be another one that you'll see on several other maps. This is going to be what's known as the long wall short wall tile, or sometimes known as the C jungle gym, because the little section towards the back of the tile kind of looks like a C. Now this one's most noticeable by the pallet is going to be between a long wall and a short wall. On the inside of the long wall tends to be a generator, and sometimes there's going to be a hook here in the middle of the tile. Now this totem is going to be in the middle of the tile in that C section we spoke about, tucked away on the left side next to one of the water barrels. All right, the next jungle gym we're going to look at is going to be a long wall jungle gym tile. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the most powerful tiles in the game if you know how to loop it correctly. It's most noticeable by on one side it's going to have a pallet, and then on the complete opposite side of the tile is a long wall that has a window in it. In this tile, sometimes you're going to find a generator. You'll always have a locker, and sometimes a hook. Now the totem in this tile is going to be on the interior of the tile, much like the normal jungle gym tile. And in the corner, you're going to find a water barrel, and tucked next to that water barrel is, you guessed it, there's going to be your totem. Now the final jungle gym tile that's going to be here on the Coldwind Fractured Cowshed map is going to be your standard L wall T wall tile. Now if you don't know what that is, it's most noted by one of the sections looks like a L, and it has a window there in the corner. The other one looks like a T that also has a window, so it's going to have 2 diagonal windows. Sometimes there's a generator, sometimes there's a hook. There will usually be a locker. Now the totem is going to be on the interior of the tile. It's going to be on the T wall side, and it's going to be between 2 water barrels. On other maps, this is between 2 boxes, but it's going to be right there for you. All right, as we move away from the jungle gym tiles and we continue around the outside, this is going to be the first one in a set of outer hay tiles. Now, instead of the jungle gyms, which are normally on the path These are going to be more on the outside edges. So this one's most noticeable by the hay bale stacks and sometimes the generator, but the most noticeable thing for this first one is going to be the little water tanker or pesticides. I'm not quite sure. The tanker of some form at the outer edge of the tile, and then behind the tanker between a tree and a water barrel is going to be your totem. All right, the next set of tiles we're going to look at are the hay tree tiles. The reason I call it that is because there's a lot of trees and usually a large stack of hay bales. This first one has a stack of hay bales between two trees that are kind of in the shape of a Y. It's going to have two little sets that break off of one of the trees that kind of make the upper portion of the Y, and then the tail comes out of one of the other trees there toward the middle of the tile. Now this totem is going to be in the upper Y V section of that Y, tucked away in that corner of the hay bales. All right, now the next hay tree tile is going to have about the same amount of trees, but smaller hay stacks. There's going to be a little bit more of them, but there's going to start bringing in the square / rectangular hay stacks and not just the cylindrical ones. This one's most noticeable by the stack of 3-cylinder hay bales up against one of the trees that tends to have a pallet, and then the rectangular ones up against that tree, kind of making a crescent shape. Now the totem here is going to be on the interior of the tile next to those rectangular hay bales, and sometimes a barrel there, so keep an eye out. All right, now the next tree hay tile we're going to look at, they're going to have only the cylindrical hay bales here. One of them is going to be a large stack, kind of leaning between two trees. Sometimes there's going to be a pallet here, sometimes there's a hook. The totem is going to be on the interior of the tile, usually next to where the generator or the hook is. You can also see that there's sometimes a fire barrel here. Now the totem is going to be up against the interior of the tile on the pallet side where the hook is as well, so it's kind of squeezed in there, tucked away a little tightly. All right, one of the next tiles we're going to look at is another one of your tree hay tiles here. It's going to have your cylindrical hay bales as well as some of the rectangular ones. This one is a little sparser than the other one. It's not as well defined. It basically just looks like a standard long wall, short wall gym, except with hay bales. The hook is usually going to be on the outside of the tile. The totem is also going to be facing the exterior of the tile between 3 trees and the large stack of rectangular hay. All right, now connecting most of these exterior pallets are going to be your path tiles. Now these are most noted by, it's going to have some assets and features on opposite sides of the tile that have a nice straightaway down the center. This will connect the shack to each of the corners and then the barn to each of those corners, and it makes a nice big square around the map. This first path tile we're going to look at has a trailer at the end of it with a fire barrel, and it usually has a pallet loop here. Now this first totem is going to be actually behind that trailer, tucked away in the corner toward the outer edge of the tile. All right, now the next path tile we're going to look at is going to be a tree hay tile. This one is most noticeable by the large amount of trees, a slightly less obvious path, and small stacks of rectangular hay bales. Now this totem is going to be on the outer edge of the tile next to a triple stack of rectangular hay bales, between 3-4 trees here on the outer edge of that tile there. So just keep an eye out if you happen to be going along the paths here. All right, there is another tree hay path tile. It looks very, very similar to the first one. Here the hay stacks are, they're slightly more hay, literally 1 or 2 more rectangular hay bales, almost indistinguishable from the first one unless you know what you're looking for. The totem is going to basically be in the same place. It's going to be between the 4 stack of trees in that triangle pattern on the outer edge of the tile. But if you notice, the interior hay pile here actually has 1 more rectangular hay bale. But again, the totem's going to be in the same place, so keep an eye out. All right, now as we move inward toward the center of the map, the next tile we're going to look at is the hill. The hill has been seen on multiple maps, and interestingly enough, the totem placements are actually different depending on what map that hill is on. So on this one, the hill will have a totem spawn, and unlike some of them where the totem spawns at the top middle of the hill where the pathway meets the top, this one's actually at the bottom, just sticking right out there in the open on the right side of the hill. So keep an eye out, shouldn't be hard to miss. All right, now the next interior tile we're going to look at is a hay bale tractor type tile. I've usually seen this one outside the barn, but this one is most noticeable by the large stacks of hay bales, both cylindrical and rectangular, as well as the abandoned tractor. Sometimes you're going to find a pallet here, sometimes a gen, sometimes a hook, but the totem here is actually going to be on the inside of the map. It's going to be opposite from where the pallet will spawn, and it's where the rectangular and the cylindrical hay bales meet into a corner. All right, now the next interior tile we're going to look at is actually kind of an interesting one. On other maps, there are jungle gyms that are known as the 3-lane or the 4-lane, where it has several walls with open lanes that usually has locker, pallet, generator, sometimes totems and hooks. But this one is kind of like an open air 2-lane almost, where it has one pathway that's blocked off by hay bales, another one that's blocked off by this broken down truck, and it kind of makes 2 lanes, but it's more open. Now this totem is actually going to be up against the broken down truck, and it's going to be where the water barrels kind of are towards the hood, so keep an eye out, and it's going to be tucked away there. It's just a very interesting tile. All right, now this next one is another one of the 2-lane that I was talking about on the interior of the map. This one's a little more apparent that it's definitely 2 distinct lanes, where it's going to have 3 walls. It's going to have an opening, usually a pallet on one of the sides. This one's made mostly up of hay bales, rectangular and cylindrical, as well as one of the trailers. This totem is, you would think it'd be next to the trailer in the corner where that one hay bale is sideways, but no, this one's actually just smack dab in the open towards the interior of the tile, toward the middle. So shouldn't be hard to miss. All right, now the final set of interior totems we're going to look at are going to be the lovely and dreaded corn tiles. Now these actually, as I was doing this, notice that there's actually multiple different types of corn tiles. This first one we're going to look at, you'll notice that the corn go into a diagonal shape X toward the center of the tile itself. And what I mean by that, by the rows are actually diagonal facing into the map. Now, the good news about these totems is they're usually toward the center of the tile where all of them converge. So this first one is going to be in an open lane in the center of the tile. All right, now the next one of the interior corn tiles is going to be the straightaway corn. I know it sounds weird, but these corn rows are actually in straight parallel patterns. They're not diagonal, and they're usually parallel to the outer walls. Now this tile tends to have a generator, sometimes a hook. Now the totem here is actually going to be on the outside of the tile. The orientation here can be facing basically any direction, so go along the outer square of the tile if you happen to notice that the rows of corn are going to be straight rather than diagonal, or you'll see in the next one, because there is one more, a wavy pattern. So the straightaway, again, outside of the tile, keep an eye out for it. All right, now the final interior corn tile is going to be a wavy pattern. The first one you remembered is a diagonal pattern where they all kind of make an X toward the center of the tile. The second one was more straight and narrow. This one is kind of in a wave pattern. These rows are wider apart. Very easy to spot things. Sometimes you'll have a generator, sometimes you'll have a hook, sometimes you'll have a chest. This totem, much like the diagonal, is going to be towards the center of the tile itself, but you'll notice that the corn rows are in like a little bump toward the centers left and right of the tile here. This one shouldn't be too hard to miss, honestly, if it's glowing. If not, maybe a little harder. All right, now the first tile we're going to look at under the main building category is going to be the obligatory shack. Most of you know the Killer Shack is on almost every single map. The Killer Shack has the same layout. It'll have one window, two openings, one pallet, sometimes a chest, sometimes a basement. Now, it'll also sometimes have a generator. It'll always have two lockers. This one is actually always going to be located in the same place. This is going to be on the kitty corner of the map, diagonal from the barn. Now, the totem here, much like many of the other shack totems, is going to be up against the wall the pallet is on, behind next to some boxes, and the wall the window is on. So just take a quick peek when you're here. All right, now the next set of main tiles we're going to look at is the combine. This is probably the second most noticeable structure on the entire map. It is large, heavy machinery. It's used to hay bale or bale hay. Some people call it the hay baler, but there's going to be a couple totems here. Now, the first totem is going to be, if you're facing the front, which is where these broken down blades are, and you can walk up towards the top, is actually going to be on the right of the blades, and it's going to be tucked away up against the front tire here. Little hard to miss sometimes. Now, the next totem on the combine here, as the combine basically spawns in the exact same place every single time. Much like the first one, it's gonna be a little hard to spot if you're just running by. If you're looking for it, it shouldn't be too hard to notice. So here on the left side, if you're facing the front, there's a vault that goes down to part of the motor here. And then between the motor there and the stack of hay bales on the left side, tucked away behind some brush, is going to be your totem. All right, now continuing with the main combine tile totems, there's going to be a couple more. It's interesting. When I was making this, I wasn't expecting there to be so many totems on this one tile, but sure enough, they stack this combine to the brim. Now, this one is actually going to be up top on the bed of the combine there. So if you go up the center, take a quick right just before the vault, and tucked away in the corner behind the large wall there, you're going to find your totem. Shouldn't be too hard to spot. Well, surprise, surprise. The next one we're looking at is, yet again, the main combine. I swear we are almost done. There's only like two more on the combine here. This one is pretty... it could be easy to spot, could be hard to spot, depends on what you're doing. But if you're looking at the front of the combine, to the right is going to be the baler chute. Now, there is a window vault at the top that'll go down to the baler chute, which will let you drop onto a hay bale and then drop down to the rest of the chute. If you're on the chute side, to the right between two stacks of hay bales, tucked away next to the chute, you're going to find your totem here. All right, finally finishing up with the combine. This is now the fifth totem that will spawn here. Something to point out, yes, there are a lot of totem spawns in this tile, but only one totem can spawn on a tile at a time. You'll never find two totems on the same tile, no matter how many possible totem spawns it has, at least for now. So this next one is actually towards the back of the combine, which is going to be on the opposite side of the front blade ramp that goes up towards the flat bed up top. It's on the back. If you're looking at the back, it's on the left side towards the chute side, tucked away between some hay bales. Now, this one can be kind of hard to activate, so just keep trying. All right, as we finish up here on the last totem in the barn, I just want to thank everybody so much for sticking it out with us this long. Everybody's awesome. If you like what you saw here, a like is surely appreciated. And if you want to make sure you know when more of these totems videos come out, sub and notifications turn on is surely appreciated. If I missed anything, or if you just want to talk, make sure you hit a comment down below and I'll respond to it. Now, as we get into the main barn area, this main barn is going to be diagonal from the shack on the map. It has split up into two sections, this wooded area that can spawn the basement, as well as the ground area with the stacks of hay bales. The totem is going to be on the stack of hay bales that has the long tail that sticks out to the door, and it's going to be tucked away in a little nook. So if nobody told you already, we love you guys very much, and remember, stay safe out there in the fog.